Welcome to our session on thriving in the multi-level classroom, putting systems in place for success. This is an interactive video meant for inclusion teams from the same school. When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. A big challenge for students, or teachers in our inclusion settings is that much attention is given to the students who are below grade level, and they are seeking ways to enrich and accelerate the students who are above grade level while still meeting the needs of all the students in the classroom. Hopefully, through our session today, you will find some ways to easily implement some systems to do that. So, what systems can we put in place to promote success for all students in our classroom? First thing we're going to do is kind of analyze our current barriers, and then you're going to break up into 3 separate groups to develop and design a system for support under a specific category. And that's going to be the bulk of your time in this session today. And then we're going to come back together at the end to debrief. We'll explain what we learned, we'll explain the goals that we set, and then finally set our date for coming back together after we've tried putting some of these systems in place to see what next steps we can make. So go ahead and think about or jot down your thoughts to this question. Pause the video for 2 minutes to allow folks some think time and some processing time, and then press play again after 2 minutes. So what are some current barriers to providing enrichment opportunities in my multi-level classroom? Pause now. Hopefully you were able to see that there were probably some commonalities to the challenges that you are all facing. So one of the systems that we can put in place is exactly what we're doing here. Coming together, talking about what our needs are, and then exploring ways to make it better. You may find that many of the things that you jotted down or talked about or thought about fell into 3 general categories. Is there a need for resources that aren't available for you to plan for your enrichment or for students to engage in enrichment? Is there a need for a way to enrich that doesn't require an intense amount of planning time, since much of our PLC time is spent developing those intervention times and the work for the students below grade level? Or is there a need for a way to manage that work in order to give meaningful and productive feedback to the student, to the parent, and to yourself as to how they're doing during that time? So go ahead and take a second, and as a group, divide yourself up into 3 groups, and decide who will explore the resources, who will explore the enrichment, and who will explore the management. You're going to use the description box below this YouTube video to find your timestamps. So if you are the resources group, you're actually just going to keep playing because you're the first one. If you're the enrichment group, you can see what time you can skip to in the video to start that work. And then the management, again, you'll look at the timestamp for that, where that section starts, and you can just skip to that part and start to explore from there. After 25 minutes of engaging in the work, you're all going to come back to the debrief session. And again, that timestamp is in the description below. And then guidance will be in that part of the video for you. So go ahead right now and skip to your part of this video. Hello, resource group. So you're going to spend your time today creating kind of a resource toolbox. a way for you to access what's already there. It may seem obvious, but oftentimes we forget that some things that are already there for us. So we'll have a nice central place where we can remind ourselves of that. But you're also going to be able to explore what isn't there and how can we get it. All right. So your group is going to download the multi-level resources organizer. A link to this document is in the description box below. And as a group, you're going to go through each one of the categories and just brainstorm what can go where. Okay, so think about who could be a guest speaker, who could be a guest teacher in the classroom, who could help with collaborative groupings, who could you collaboratively plan with. Follow the guiding questions for each column in order to brainstorm what's already there in our classroom, in our school, in our community, on the internet, and then what's not there yet. And list that out. What have you been wanting or needing, or just pie in the sky wish for? Put that there. Don't hold back. And then as a team, do a gap analysis. What do we see as a priority that we need to do over the next 2 weeks before we meet again? And set a goal for that. So that will be your work for the next 25 minutes. So go ahead and pause the video here, complete the multi-level resource organizer with your team, and then skip ahead to the debrief section in 25 minutes where you'll learn what your colleagues were doing during this time as well. Have fun. Hello, Enrichment Group. So ultimately our goal is all students learning all day. And that can be really hard when we have sometimes up to 2 different intervention groups in a day. And we do have a select few students who are never going to need that intervention. There are at a level where they're going to need challenge and enrichment and opportunities to engage in different ways every time that intervention group comes up. So what's something that we can put in place that isn't going to require a lot of pre-planning on our part, but is going to give a really big impact to the student if they engage in it? And one thing that I've found that is just really great for this are the depth and complexity icons put together by Kaplan. So your group is going to spend the time learning more about the icons, how to introduce the icons, and different examples of how teachers have used them in their classroom. And then all of these links, by the way, are in the description box below this video. And also you're going to download the multi-level enrichment decision tree organizer. And each teacher is going to pick 1 or 2 icons to try in the classroom for the next 2 weeks. You're going to list, like, how are you going to introduce it? How are you going to provide that as a part of your students' enrichment time? And when we come back in 2 weeks, you're going to talk about what worked, what didn't work, and all that good stuff. So go ahead and pause the video here to complete the multi-level enrichment decision tree organizer with your team. The links are all in the description below. And then after about 25 minutes, go ahead and skip ahead to the debrief section where you're going to learn more about what your colleagues were doing in the other sessions. Have fun. These icons can be a game changer for schools. Go ahead and pause now. Okay, management team. oftentimes the thing that gets put to the wayside more often than not is the assessment. How are we assessing student progress when they are working in these independent opportunities while we are pulling our intervention groups or having to work with our students who are needing more support? Well, there are many different ways to do that, but I've pulled two specific ways to assess student progress that I feel would be a system that is A, easier to implement, and B, would have the most consistent impact, something that you could use no matter what content, no matter what lesson, and by having that systematically in place, students and you will get better and better and better at using them and growing from them. So you can either break up into two different groups. One group can learn about the facilitation grid, the other group can learn about the enrichment, or you can do it all together. But your group is going to download the multi-level management notes and goal sheet. The link to that document is in the description below. And the links to these two, to learning more about the facilitation grid and learning more about the general enrichment rubric, those links are also in the description below. So take your notes, think about how this could look being implemented in the classroom, and then set a goal for your group to try and do over the next 2 weeks before we meet again to talk about our progress with it. So again, go ahead and pause the video here. Complete the multi-level management notes and goal sheet with your team while viewing the links below and thinking about the logistics of how these could look in the classroom. And then after 25 minutes, skip ahead to the debrief section. That timestamp will be again in the description below. Have fun. Okay, teams, now that we have taken the time to learn about 3 different ways to create systems for enrichment in our classrooms, go ahead and pause the video for about 5 minutes and discuss what each group learned and what goal they have set to try and implement over the next 2 weeks before we meet again. So over the next 2 weeks, if you need help or if you have questions, you can always reach out to me, your gifted resource teacher. But I also encourage you guys to lean on each other within your topic group. So all the resources people can remind each other and support each other, but also mixing up in between. Seeing the connections that we can make through all 3 of these wheels turning to the betterment of our students who are in need of enrichment. Please take the time now to get out your calendars and put in the day and time that you are going to meet again to discuss your progress towards the goals you have set today. And finally, this quote stood out to me too. It said, if you're too busy to build good systems, then you'll always be too busy. My hope that is by setting up some of these systems, it will free you up to being able to work with your students and leverage the time that you have to plan and to move your students forward in a powerful way. Have fun, and please reach out if you have any questions at all.